Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we have another writing feedback video. Again, IELTS writing task 2, surprise surprise, academic essay. And as always we start by reading the question, analysing the question, thinking about our structure, making sure that we don't miss something in the question. Very important. So let's take a look. Smoking is a major cause of serious illnesses, death. Smoking is a major cause of serious illnesses, death. So I can immediately see this is not a real IELTS essay question because there are mistakes here. It doesn't make sense. Smoking is a major cause of serious illnesses and death, perhaps. Serious illnesses and death throughout the world today, okay? In the interest of the public health, not the public health. In the interest of public health, governments should ban cigarettes and tobacco products. Do you agree or disagree? Okay. Okay, so we've corrected the question. Now let's analyze it. Smoking. So smoking. That's central point to our essay. Smoking is a major cause of serious illnesses and death. So smoking bad. Smoking bad. In the interest of public health, governments should ban cigarettes. So smoking is bad. Why? It causes serious illnesses and death. And as a result, it would be better for public health, for people in general, if governments decided to stop the selling of cigarettes, to make the selling of cigarettes and tobacco products illegal. Do you agree or disagree? So very simple, agree or disagree. We are asked to take a position and we need to take a position. Agree or disagree? Agree or disagree? So, in the introduction, I'd like to have a little bit of background information about the subject, subject being smoking or maybe even public health. Then some reference to the question, this, idea, the question, should we ban cigarettes? Should we ban cigarettes? And I also want to know the candidate's position in the introduction. I don't need to know their reasons why they agree or disagree in the introduction, but I need to know their position. I need to know if they agree or disagree or not in the introduction. If the candidate agrees that we should ban cigarettes and tobacco products, then body paragraph 1 will be reason 1 why the candidate agrees. Body paragraph 2 will be reason 2 why the candidate agrees, and the conclusion will be a summary of the candidate's main arguments and some extra comment. Let's see if that's what we get from the candidate. Let's have a look. First, I want to check number of paragraphs. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's short. This is not 250 words. I'd say 230, 220, 216. So, the last 3 candidates now who have sent me their writing, not one of them has been in the normal range of words. The first one was like 220 words, then there was like 370 words, and now we have 216 words. I will keep repeating this, I guess, until I have no more oxygen left in my body. Your first job as a candidate is to make sure that your word count is correct. From now on, I'm not going to accept pieces of writing that don't have an appropriate word count. I'm going to create this rule because this week all 3 pieces of writing have not been in that word count, so I'm going to become a little bit stricter with what I accept. So immediately we can see the candidate will lose some points because they haven't met the 250 words. The ideal number of words for me is about 280. The ceiling is 300. I don't like it when candidates go over 300, but if a candidate has 310, that's okay. I'm fine with that. But the first thing you have to learn is how to stick within that, or stick to that word count, to get that approximate, between 250 and 300, preferably 280. But okay, we do have 4 paragraphs. Just noticing signposting language looks good. We get a firstly, which is appropriate. We get a secondly. I love it, love it, love it. So simple, so good for cohesion. And an in conclusion. Cool. So without reading, any of the content yet, I can see the structure is decent. Signposting language is good. Okay, but it is short. Also notice some typos immediately, like shut, I with a small letter, a fact. I don't know, maybe. Okay, let's have a look. So, let's start reading. Death due to smoking increased dramatically. Okay, wrong tense. It should be has increased. And maybe deaths, but okay, death as an abstract noun, maybe. Death due to smoking has increased dramatically over the past years. The past years? Maybe in recent years or over the past few years. So over the past years sounds a bit strange. It's okay, it's understandable, but it is not natural. Many people argue, okay, and that's, normal background information, but it's a direct paraphrase of this, right? But okay, fine. Many people argue that authorities need to prohibit cigarettes. Cool, I like this use of the word prohibit as a synonym of ban. Fine. Cigarettes and tobacco goods. Okay, products changing for goods. It's a little bit obvious that the candidate is directly paraphrasing. It's okay to paraphrase, but I would prefer for candidates to kind of read, understand, and then use their own wording, use their own, from their memory, rather than mechanically looking at every word and then trying to find a synonym: ban, prohibit, product, goods. I'd rather see that language created or emerging naturally from the candidate. But okay, fine. We get background information, we get a reference to the question, overcome this problem, okay, overcome the problem, very nice collocation, and then we get to see the candidate's position. Great. I strongly agree with this point and will discuss. I strongly agree with this point and these issues will be discussed, or I will discuss. Okay, so we have a few mistakes, a few small mistakes, but generally the introduction does its job. Cool. No big complaints. Okay, so now we should get reason one why the candidate agrees. Firstly, good. Let's see how the topic sentence is. This topic sentence should give me a very clear idea of the candidate's first argument for why smoking should be banned. Let's see. It is common that smoking for a long period of time, again, these type of typos, time instead of time, these type of typos kind of signal to me that the candidate isn't very serious about their IELTS, or at least isn't very serious about the mock IELTS. You should take time to find your typos and correct your typos. It just shows a lack of care. But okay, long period of time is. Let's have a look. It is common that smoking for a long period of time, it is common knowledge perhaps, or it is well known, but not it is common. Smoking for a long period of time is one of the most primary causes of serious health diseases. We know that, right? That's not your argument, because it says here, smoking is a major cause of serious illnesses. That's the fact that is presented. And you're just repeating that fact, but that's not an argument. We want to put forward an argument that supports why it should be banned. So the topic sentence is a little bit weak. There are scientific article, so there are plural, article, singular. It's a problem. That illustrates. Okay, so I guess there is a scientific article that illustrates smoking that illustrates maybe that smoking. So we need this that between there. Illustrates that smoking for many years is responsible for respiratory So now the candidate has just repeated in different words this line. Smoking is a major cause of serious illnesses and death. Smoking for a long period of time is one of the most primary causes of serious diseases. Smoking for many years is responsible for respiratory-related disorders like lung cancer, consequence death. Grammatically, it's very odd. So there's nothing really new here. We know We know that smoking is bad for our health because it mentions it here. You have to make an argument for why it's okay to ban cigarettes, why a ban would be effective, but you're just repeating the idea that smoking is bad for our health. We know smoking is bad for our health. We know. Why is banning it the best solution? That's what you have to answer. You don't have to explain that smoking is bad for our health. We know. The question asks you whether you agree whether banning smoking is reasonable. And so you have to explain why banning cigarettes is the best option here. Also, non-smokers who just inhale the toxic emission released from the cigarettes or tobacco got in the past, or in general get, equally affected. I don't know if it's equally affected. Passive smoking for sure is a problem, but it is not the same. It is not equally. These people are not equally affected by smoking. Therefore, it is undeniable that smoking threatens the health of the smokers and even people living with him or her. Him or her, the smoker, maybe you mean him or her doesn't refer to anyone established in this paragraph. So nowhere in this paragraph has the candidate spoken about banning cigarettes. Not once has the candidate spoken about banning cigarettes. The candidate has simply made an argument that smoking is unhealthy. We know smoking is unhealthy. It mentions it as the factual statement here. Your task is to explain why banning cigarettes is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And you haven't mentioned banning cigarettes once here. It's a problem. Secondly, smoking is also a financial burden of people in a country. Okay, that is true that smoking is a problem financially, but are we going to mention banning it? People start smoking in order to their mental well-being. Okay, in order to their in order to their mental well-being. I have no idea what that means. Yeah, and also I want to highlight this. That's really poor in terms of grammar too. Like reduce stress, depression, and sadness. I don't know if those are the reasons why people start smoking. I think that's, yeah, I don't think that's true. But okay, gradually there are some people that say we shouldn't start sentences with but. Linguistic research shows that but start sentences quite often, even in academic language. So for me, absolutely fine. But comma, gradually comma, that becomes an indispensable habit. Indispensable habit? I guess so. Indispensable habit in their daily life. After that is one word. Again, candidate isn't very serious about their writing if they're not finding that mistake themselves. After that, comma, they cannot change this habit easily. What do you mean to change the habit? Give up or quit, perhaps, but not change. Ultimately, this will affect. Is it a typo or is it a misspelling? This will affect financially. Affect somebody financially. This will affect financially. Drains. Where is this drains? Where is this S coming from? This will drains? Drains the significant part of their. Who is there here? You're talking about the smoker? I guess they. Okay, fine. Their family budgets. Does it drain the family budgets? And it should have a comma, which makes their life become harder. Makes their life harder. Makes their life become isn't. Yeah, that's not how we use this. Makes their life harder. Well, makes their lives harder. Again, nowhere in this paragraph have you spoken about banning cigarettes and why banning cigarettes is the correct solution here. You've simply said that smoking is bad for people. Smoking is bad for people's health. Smoking is bad for people's finances. Now, if this task was something like, if the question was, smoking is a very popular activity all over the world. However, there are some people who believe that smoking is generally a negative thing. What is your opinion? Is smoking a good thing or a bad thing? then this would be a great essay, or a good essay. However, the question isn't, is smoking good or bad? It is admitted here that smoking is bad. The question is, now that we know that it's bad, should governments ban cigarettes? And you do nothing with this question. Should governments ban cigarettes? Your body paragraphs don't mention the prohibition or the banning of cigarettes at all. In conclusion, with the evidence that small letter for I, again, not serious, that I have discussed above, comma, I, small letter for I strongly agree. We don't need to state your position here. We should summarize. We're not, in the conclusion, we don't state our position. We don't set out. We know you strongly agree. This has been mentioned here. You don't need to mention it here. You should summarize your main, what you've discussed above. I strongly agree that government should, the word should is here, right? There's no reason. Sometimes we misspell words, absolutely fine. I misspell words very often, but I wouldn't misspell a word that was in the question. I would look, I would think, okay, am I spelling this word correctly? Let's check how it's written in the question. That government, just one government or governments or the government, should prohibit advertising, selling. Well, advertising, that's a different point now. We're talking about banning the sale. Okay, should ban cigarettes and tobacco products. Should prohibit advertising, selling, and using cigarette and tobacco goods to provide healthier quality of life of the citizens. Okay, so the conclusion doesn't really offer any summary of the candidate's main arguments here. And it just restates the position in the conclusion. So that will affect coherence and cohesion a little bit. So, task response, I'm going to go with I'm sorry to do this, a generous examiner would give you a 5. I'm going to give you a 4, just because there is nothing, apart from the position, there is no argument here that we should ban cigarettes. There might be underlying coherence, right? There might be an underlying idea there. But for me, you haven't presented one argument that says that banning cigarettes would be a good thing to do. You've mentioned that cigarettes are bad for our health. You've mentioned that cigarettes create financial problems for people. But at no point do you say cigarettes should be banned. And so for that reason, I'm giving task response 4. Coherence and cohesion. Also, it's quite short. Coherence and cohesion. So I think there is a little bit of illogical reasoning, or a bit of illogical stuff here to restate that position in the conclusion. That's kind of an odd thing. But I do think there is progress from, introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2. It's clear that the candidate is starting with one idea, then moving to a second set of ideas, and then trying to wrap up. So that's good stuff. Paragraph structure is fine. In terms of connectives, we get some stuff with also, firstly, secondly, another also. After that is good sequencing language. Let's have a look. Anything else? Another also here. A bit of therefore. So we do get some nice, decent connectives, and I think maybe I'm going to give the 6 for coherence and cohesion. Yeah, I'm going to give the 6 for coherence and cohesion. It really could even be a 7. I think if the conclusion was a bit more, if the conclusion had a summary of the main arguments, I might be tempted then to give it a 7. So you're very close with coherence and cohesion. You know what an essay looks like, and you use lots of connectives, and you try to order your work logically. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I could give a 7 for this. Yeah, why not? I was harsh. With task response, I was harsh and I gave it 4. But coherence and cohesion, your answers, your arguments, or your sentences rather, flow nicely, and the paragraphs flow nicely, and the paragraph structure is fine, and there are lots of connectives. I'm going to award 7 for coherence and cohesion. Lexical resource. So there are some good bits of language. Emission released, cool. Inhaled, toxic emission, cool. Respiratory related disorders like lung cancer. There are lots of spelling mistakes too, like time is misspelt, effect is misspelt. I am, you never know for sure, but I would say that the candidate has maybe used Google Translate or used something to help get some language. Like, it's always odd for me when candidates can produce accurate language, like who just inhaled the toxic emission released from the cigarette, but they don't know how to spell time correctly. That's always strange, or they don't know that after that is 2 words. So that suggests to me that the candidate has, used Google or ChatGPT or something for a bit of help. Always recommend, if, when you're doing your self-study, great. Use those resources. They are available. Learn from those resources. Great. If you're submitting writing to me, please let it be your original writing. I don't want to check Google's writing or ChatGPT's writing. I'm not saying for a fact the candidate has done this, but for me, it's very suspicious that you can get such natural, perfect language here, but the candidate doesn't know how to spell time. Or write "there are" scientific article. It's odd that there's that huge difference in quality from one candidate. But okay, so lexical resource, I am going to award the 7. I do think, the actual range of lexes is probably at an 8. The accuracy is probably at like a 5 or a 6, because there are so many strange mistakes with vocab. But I think there is overall enough for that 7. Grammatical range and accuracy. While there are some really, really nice bits of grammar, again, going back to this emission released, right? This is a reduced relative clause, emission which is released. So the candidate emits the relative pronoun which, and the verb to be is emission released. This is high level grammar to know how to use reduced relative clauses. There is, of course, some I guess, a range of sentence types. Just looking for some complex sentences. Due to the smoking increased. Oh, sorry, that's death. No. Yeah, many people argue that authorities need to prohibit cigarettes. Okay, so we do have some complex sentences here. It is very common that smoking for a long period of time is one of the most primary causes of serious health diseases. So yeah, some complex sentences, cool. But there are so many grammar mistakes. Will discussed, very odd. Article illustrates, or there are scientific article, very basic. In order to their mental well-being, like reduce stress. This is an example of a grammatical error which really does confuse the reader. The reader would need to reread this a few times to try to make sense of it. Makes their life become, okay, I can understand the meaning, but there's still a grammatical mistake. So for me, grammatical range and accuracy is at a 6. So now I have to work out this really, really difficult thing to work out. So 6776 would be a 6.5. 5776 would be a 6.25. 4776 would be overall band 6. I hope my maths are correct. But again, as I mentioned many times before, the final score that I give you should just be a guide. The most important thing is to listen to the feedback and to learn from the feedback, and then to make improvements. So what can I say about the candidate? In general, if you are using ChatGPT or Google Translate to help you, that's fine. But if you want to get a realistic picture of where your actual writing is, please don't use those tools when you submit writing to me. I don't know if you are doing that, but just, something to keep in mind. You know how to write an essay, how to use these 4 paragraphs. Cool. That's a really, really good thing. I like your use of connectives and all of that good stuff. For the first thing, you have to learn to write to at least 250 words. You also have, most critically, you have to learn how to read questions and understand what is required of you, because it will kill your score. You know, if you'd read the question and understood it correctly, you know, you could have got 6 or 7 for task response, and then you'd be looking at like 6.5 for your score, maybe even getting close to that 7. Instead, this score really pulls you down. I hope I've got that score right, that it's 6.0. Let me just do that maths again. 6677, 6.5. 5677, 6.25. Yeah, it seems like it's 6.0. One of the things examiners actually never have to think about. We don't have to make these calculations. We just write the score for each thing, and then, you know, we feed that off, and then the computer takes that task and somebody else marks the task 1, and then they collate the scores together, and then they come up with the final score. So yeah, overall 6.0, B2. Candidate hasn't answered the question. That's the critical problem. The candidate hasn't written enough words, and that's also a problem. But there's a lot of really, really good vocab in there, and really decent coherence and cohesion. Essay writing, planning, structuring, all of that's good. Grammar is a bit strange. Please be careful with your typos. You should be the first person who checks your test. The examiner should not be the first person who checks it. You should be the person who finds mistakes with should and a fact and small letter I. Yeah. So I'll leave it there. 6.0 for me, B2, upper intermediate, decent, but critical that you read the question. So hope you enjoyed this breakdown of this candidate's writing. If you have any comments, please let me know below. Also, maybe let me know why you think candidates can't write an appropriate number of words, why it's either always like 220 or 350. Any ideas? I have no idea. Yeah, if you'd like me to check your IELTS writing, if you can write, you know, 250 to 300 words, and if you can write on topic where you actually answer the question, and you'd like me to check your IELTS writing, you can request this on my Telegram channel. I also do free speaking tests with feedback. Again, you can request this on the Telegram channel. A link to this channel is given below. More videos coming from me very soon, but have a wonderful day and see you all. Bye bye.